What if Toji hadn't taken his own life right here and continued to live on? What might have happened next in the story? Well, let's talk about it, and big shout out to Fat Cat for the questions today, but I think I'm going to leave that first one up to you. All right, so the way Fat Cat posed this, he hit me with a bunch of hypotheticals. So I'm going to go through those first, and then I'll give my 2 cents on what I think might happen. So Fat Cat said, how would the rest of the Shibuya incident play out if Toji had decided to help all of the sorcerers? And first and foremost, that takes the shape of how would a Toji versus Jogo matchup go? I think it goes a little like this. I think Toji just absolutely slams Jogo, to be honest. I think he's just that much stronger and that much faster than him. We know that Dagon said that Nabito was faster than Jogo, so I promise you Toji is far faster than Jogo. And Jogo's really only chance would be the domain expansion, right? But that's not going to work on Toji, so I think he destroys him. The next Fat Cat asked how would Kenjaku react to seeing Toji, and would this disrupt his plans for the Culling Games? And I don't think Kenjaku would care at all. Like, I don't even think it would even give him pause. If anything, he might be interested to see somebody like that's been resurrected, but I would assume that he would probably at least have some awareness of the seance technique and probably be able to put together what happened as opposed to thinking it was like some sort of weird miracle or anything. But it doesn't really disrupt his plans at all because at that point he had already sealed Gojo, and that was like the biggest roadblock to his plans, right? Now, Toji, if we want to assume that he does like join up with the good guys and try to help the sorcerers, it could be like a little bit of a thorn in his side because Toji, just like Maki, would be able to go through the different colonies of the Culling Games because, they're not going to be affected by the barriers. So he would be like a nuisance, but not really anything that was like an actual problem, in my opinion. Then the rest of Fat Cat's questions here are about how Toji's continued presence would affect the story. So first, would he be a good mentor to the Jujutsu students? No, I don't think so. Because, just because he's back doesn't mean he's going to fundamentally change who he is, right? And that was never really his style, to be like a mentor and actually, present for things like that. And I also don't think he would really care too much about like the goings on of the jujutsu world. If anything, I'm not saying he would like join up with Kenjaku, but he might take some sort of like sick pleasure in like seeing that world kind of falling down, the world that always had abandoned him, right? Now, obviously, if his son asked for his help or whatever, then like maybe he would, but like I definitely don't see him becoming like teacher of the year or anything. Then he asked how would he react to Maki obliterating the Zenin clan. I think he would be smiling just like this because, he never did it, but I'm certain that he had his reasons too, you know what I mean? So he probably would just respect the fact that she actually went through with it. And then Fat Cat said, would Toji be able to help Megumi with his mastery of the 10 Shadows? And I would say maybe if this kind of headcanon theory we've talked about before on the channel was real. That theory being that a heavenly restricted user like Toji could help in the subjugation ritual of Shikigami because they wouldn't recognize them actually being there since they have no cursed energy. Meaning like Toji could help Megumi tame Maharaga or any of the other Shikigami. So if that's true, then yeah, he could help Megumi a lot. But aside from that, I don't really think so because I don't think he's ever really been invested in the sorcery world. Like maybe he could, help Megumi train physically, but not really beyond that. But then as far as how the Culling Games would go, if Toji was also there, or the Shinjuku Showdown, I don't think any of that matters because I don't think he even makes it there, even in this timeline where he doesn't kill himself. And that's because what this wasn't really Toji. Like it wasn't truly Toji fully resurrected. It was kind of like the shape of him, the base of him, the primal instincts, right? Which is why when he was summoned, he was just running around looking for the strongest person to fight, like just acting on his base desires. The way I read this moment was him briefly snapping out of that, like coming back to his true senses a bit because he saw his son. Like Megumi gave him that epiphany, that moment of clarity, and because of that, he snatched that opportunity to just take himself out for his son. So I don't think that like if Toji hadn't have done this here, he would have just been Toji and could have lived on a normal life. I think ultimately he probably would have reverted to that primal beast state again. Which means, in my opinion, if Toji doesn't take his own life in that moment, this is his next move, finding the strongest person around. And I think that goes a little something like this, which basically just removes Toji from the story anyway. But even if that didn't happen and Toji did survive, again, I just don't see him fundamentally shifting his character, and I don't see him like joining the good guys and trying to help them save the day. If anything, I think he just leaves and does his own thing. Maybe he extends an invite for his son to come with him, but I don't think Megumi would, because Megumi is going to be bound by his, honor and duty and responsibility to being a sorcerer and trying to fix these problems. But Toji's not going to care. He's not going to want to save Gojo. You know what I mean? Not that he holds any ill will towards Gojo, but like he's definitely not going to risk his life to try and save him. He's not going to risk his life to try and save the society that always shunned him. So either I think Sukuna kills him or he just exits the story. And then that could set up like maybe a glorious return for him in Shinjuku, where he does decide to come help. But honestly, I don't think that shifts the fight too much, because we already had Maki and she had a soul split katana. There isn't another soul split katana to equip him with. Obviously it would help if he was there, but I don't think it really shifts too much. And then while we're talking about Toji, Marquez hit me with another one of his crazy matchup ideas, and I mean that in the best way. So let's take a look at this. He asks, who would win? Toji, but we're going to give him blood manipulation, the curse technique, and also say that he's capable of reverse curse technique, so healing, versus Kashimo, but with no restrictions to mythical beast Amber. So let's break this down a little bit, okay? I'm assuming that Marquez means even though we're giving Toji this curse technique, he will still retain the full benefits of his heavenly restriction. Even though that doesn't make sense within the laws as we understand them, this is just for this what if. So basically we're looking at a Toji that is even more of a physical demon, right? Because he will be able to dope his blood with blood manipulation. He will be able to use red flowing scale and red flowing stack to make himself, more durable, faster. Like, he becomes even more of a demon, right? Plus now he has some range via piercing blood, but his blood wouldn't be toxic like Choso's was. Plus he can heal now. And not only can he heal easily thanks to blood manipulation, aiding in that process, right? So this is like Super Saiyan Toji, basically, but versus Kashimo with no restrictions. So I think we got to give it to Kashimo, because that is a huge buff to him, right? Like, his curse technique is designed around the principle that it's a, one and done, right? So if we're removing that handicap, I think he's just too strong, too fast. Like, even as fast as Toji is, Mythical Beast Amber Kashimo is faster. And even though Toji is, if we're giving him the benefits of the heavenly restriction, meaning like no sure hits and stuff, that doesn't really matter for Kashimo. Well, one, he doesn't even have a domain, right? But two, the way his lightning works is just based on physics, right? So he has a sure hit attack that's just like scientific, right? And so even though Toji can heal, he takes one of those to the brain or just enough of those to the head area, like he's done. And like I said, Kashimo is gonna be faster than him. So I think this one is pretty easily Kashimo. And then there must be something in the air, because I also got another Toji matchup question from Nick, who says Toji versus Deathstroke from New 52. And this one is interesting. At first, I was like, oh, yeah, this is easy. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, man, I don't know. Because, full disclosure, I haven't read this run of Deathstroke, but, I'm familiar with what Deathstroke is capable of on a typical basis. And I really think it depends on, like, how much planning goes into this fight. Are they just dropped into an arena with no awareness? Because I do think that, on average, Toji, like, outclasses Deathstroke in terms of stats. Like, I think Toji would be way faster. But Deathstroke on the regular is dealing with like gods, you know what I mean? Like Superman and the Flash, etc. Right? But at the same time, he'll get beat up by Batman. So it's just so hard to tell with comic characters, because they just have so much history, right? So I feel like plot armor wise, definitely favors Deathstroke here. And again, if he has enough prep, he can probably prepare for somebody like Toji. But if they're dropped in an arena with no warning, no planning, no nothing, I think I would lean Toji. All other circumstances, probably Deathstroke. That's going to do it for this one, y'all. Be sure to let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, thank you for watching.